Kia ora, ngā mihi mai o hā kia koutou katoa. No mai hara mai kia tau mai ki tēnei wāhanga ko Auaha Live. Ko Sandra Julian ahau ko Ngāti Mutunga, Ngāti Tama, Pautama, Metia Te Awa Oku Iwi no Taranaki. Kia ora and welcome along to this week's episode of Auaha Live. I'm Sandra Julian, founder of Auaha Business Event Agency and approved professional conference organizer. If you are joining us for the first time here on Auaha Live, this is where I interview the talented people that dedicate themselves to the business events industry here in Aotearoa. And my guest today is a born and bred Wellingtonian with a passion for food and maybe a slight obsession for sourdough. But whatever that means, she is in the right place being here in Wellington because the cafes and the restaurant life here in Wellington are superb. So I will introduce you to today's guest, Raewyn Tse. Hey Raewyn, welcome along.
Kia ora Sandra, how are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you. So maybe we will start, if you could introduce yourself and tell people what you do right now.
What does Ray do right now? So Kia ora, I'm Raewyn. I am currently working for a company called Conference Innovators as a professional conference organizer. It's obviously a fairly tumultuous time at the moment with COVID affecting the business events industry and a lot of other industries. So it's a very adaptable environment at the moment. So a lot of chopping and changing, a lot of reevaluating milestones and projects, mitigating risks, looking for solutions and being really creative and kind of thinking on your feet at the moment. So yeah, it's a fairly different world to what it was 6 months ago.
I know, right? It is just where I suppose, yes, it's different and we're just adapting and running with it the best that we can, but it really does prove that we are so resilient as an industry.
Absolutely. I think that what I've really seen shine is the people connections, how accommodating all of our partners have been in terms of suppliers, how much our clients rely on us. I don't think I really appreciated, and that's probably terrible from my previous experience, but in terms of what value a professional conference organizer can have in the current environment. Multiple times I've had clients on the phone literally call me to say, thank goodness you are there managing this for us, because I can't honestly know how we could have navigated through this time without you, which is really lovely, because we've always thought, if you have the time and inclination, you can organize your own conference, but actually it is a very specialized skill set. So and we couldn't do it on our own. So yeah, I'm really thankful for the partnerships that we have right across the spectrum of event delivery.
Yeah, and I think that has really shone through just in this last 6 months around all the relationships that we have and all of the suppliers in the industry, how we can all rally together to make a win-win situation for everybody.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. We can only get out of this by working together as a team. And I think that, COVID is no one's fault. We are all having to make tricky decisions. So absolutely, I think as a business event sector and a wider hospitality and tourism sector, working together is very, very integral at this point.
Yeah. So that leads to the role that you used to do before Conference Innovators. So why don't you back up the story a little bit and tell us, what got you into the business events industry and maybe what you did before moving into this PCO world.
Yeah, so I've been with CI now for coming up 4 years, and it's been an absolute amazing journey. Prior to that, I was actually on the other side. So I was the sales manager for what was then Positively Wellington Venues. Well, actually, when I left, it was Reader, Positively Wellington Venues for that, and Wellington Convention Centre prior to that. So I was a supplier. I worked with a lot of PCOs. I worked with a lot of event managers. and I led the sales effort for the major venues in Wellington. So I did that for, in total, almost 9 years. I worked with those organisations. So a very strong business development sales background, which is also not something that I thought that I would ever do. Sales was not where I thought I would end up, and actually really enjoyed it. So yeah, it was interesting leaving venues and finding another place where I fit, where I could use all of those amazing skills I'd developed over my time there and work with a lot of the same people.
Yeah.
It wasn't really what I thought I would be doing, but it's been amazing how great the transition has been. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Because I know we had a conversation a little while ago, and that conversation, it was, I really said to you, I'm not sure that someone in a venue can really transition over to a PCO environment. I'm sure you remember that conversation.
I do remember it well, Sandra. And it was interesting because it did bring a whole lot of new challenges, which I've absolutely thrived in. But at the same time, a lot of the skills and experience and knowledge that I had as a venue operator and in that sales and business development and relationship management really did transfer really well. Luckily for me, I've got quite good attention to detail. I'm pretty pedantic on a lot of things, and I think that is that served me well as a PCO. And the whole
And I think it just comes down to your personality, your attention to detail, your relationships, and how that translates over. So yeah, that was a very generalized comment on my
Oh, absolutely. And I think there are certain people who can do it, and probably a lot who can't, because they are quite different. But I think that, as you say, my skills and my personality, I kind of tend to look at everything comes down to client solutions and being able to provide a solution. I'm very solution focused, and I'm all about the experience. So regardless of the role I'm in, those are kind of, at the forefront for me.
Yeah. So what led you to being in like venues and sales when you did like a BA in criminology and psychology? And so how did you go from university over into a sales role?
That's a really good question, Sandra. So as I said, I never thought that sales would be my bag. I didn't think it was in my wheelhouse. People always have been, though. So I've always been very interested in people, very interested in behavior, very interested in relationships and how those, I guess, interdependencies work. So I went to university and decided to study what I was interested in, which at the time was very much psychology. Studied a little bit of sociology. Criminology was absolutely amazing. Cannot recommend that course enough at Victoria University. And then went to work at the Ministry of Education. So I did my government days quite early on, and that was a part-time job during university. And then I went into a smaller family business. It was actually a kind of a security-based firm, so that was a bit random and a lot of admin. And at the ministry, it was very database focused and very detail focused, and got to work with psychologists. So my interest in psychology came from youth work that I did when I was a teenager and actually at high school, which I found really rewarding. But I don't think I'm the type of personality to be able to work on a daily basis in that space, because the letting go and the compartmentalizing work would have been, I think, quite difficult for me and quite challenging. So actually, how did I get into venues? A friend of mine worked for the technical partner of the venues at the time and said, you should come do what I do. So I had a conversation with, because he was like, you could totally do this. This is your bag. And it turns out that person referred me to the venues, who was actually looking for an inbound sales executive at the time. So I very much started, I started at the bottom. Well, not, in the nicest way. I started in a junior role at the end of the phone, being very reactive. So in the time I was at venues, I then obviously built my experience and my knowledge and actually turned my role into a proactive role. So started in a reactive role, picking up the phone, just ferrying queries, public events, private events, concerts, everything. And then ended up leaving basically selling the major venues and trying to get Australasian large-scale multi-day conferences and events into the major venues in Wellington. So I really believe in kind of learning from the tools and being on the tools and learning from the ground up. I loved having that foundation. So I think in that role, in my time there, I actually learned that sales isn't a bad word. It's nothing to be scared of. Everyone has these connotations of sales being that, oh, someone's going to force me to buy something that I don't want, or that kind of over the top kind of car salesman type approach. But what I found within my venues experience was that it's very much relationship based. It's very much solution based. And a lot of the time it's a matter of timing. If you're at the forefront of someone's mind when they're looking for a solution, then you're in with a really good chance. I'm not selling you anything that you don't want. It's finding what fits at a particular time for the problem that you have. So that was actually very transferable to a PCO world, because it's very much, you have a need, I have some skills and an amazing team, and then there's an opportunity to work together. So yeah.
Yeah. And so what do you think, apart from that sales mentality of, if you have a problem, I have a solution, and then we're a good fit, what are the transferable skills that were quite easily translated from that venue sales role over into a PCO, given that a PCO is, yes, we're selling a solution, but we also then have to get into the delivery and the nitty gritty of every little piece of delivery.
Yes, yeah. So that's also a great question. I think I'm blessed with being really detail focused. So I think that probably helps. In my venue experience, obviously we had quite a large portfolio to manage. So in terms of juggling multiple balls and looking at lots of different spaces for lots of different events, that translated quite well into the multi-faceted role that is a PCO. As you say, we are managing everything from, the caterers, your suppliers, to the format of the program, giving advice on the platforms to use if you're doing a hybrid event, programming, all of that. So attention to detail is very important. Relationships and building rapport, I think, is very important, and that's not only with your client but also with your key stakeholders, your sponsors, your exhibitors, but also communicating with delegates and your attendees, and kind of hand-holding everyone throughout the process. So I think that if you're a person who thrives in an environment where every day is different, PCOing is absolutely the way to go. It offers a great variety in terms of the roles that we play, and you kind of can dip your toe into lots of different things. So I know this much about this many industries, and every single part of the process. So yeah.
And so how important do you think it is to know about the industry of the client that you're working with? Like, how much do you dive into the industry that your client operates within?
I would love to say that I know them inside out, but that would be absolutely lying. We work with people who are curing cancer, or looking for solutions around major world problems. So we, at the end of the day, we're in PR, not ER. So we are the conduit to bring everything together. So what we try and do is make sure that the experience of hosting an event is an enjoyable one, so that our clients are able to showcase their expertise, their research, putting them forefront, and not worrying about, is morning tea going to be late, or are we running on time, or why is everyone not in the room and the pōwhiri is going to start in 5 minutes. So, it's the, that duck analogy of everything on top is looking absolutely fine, and underneath you could just be wheels are turning. So, yeah. To answer your question, not a lot, but if I had the time and capacity, absolutely. Like it opens the door to so much amazing knowledge and talent that's available locally. So I'm really proud of being able to work with clients who are literally at the forefront of, their field worldwide, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, and that's what I like too, is the variety of industries that we get to get to touch, and then we get to have an impact on through helping them deliver an experience that is top notch. Yeah. I find that like completely fascinating. Every now and then I sit here and think, if I was to go and get a job, what industry would I want to go to? And then I'm like, oh no, just being stuck in one industry, there's something about that just kind of puts me off being stuck in one industry. But
absolutely and I completely agree, because I don't think when I left venues that I really thought about how much variety was in that role, because as you say, it touches a lot of clients. So in the PCO world, it's the same. We work with so many different people that in a day, and in my normal life, I probably wouldn't interact with a lot of these people or have any insight into these industries. And it's quite impressive and quite outstanding how New Zealanders excel in their fields. And that makes me really proud as a Kiwi. So sounds
nice.
a bit cheesy, but it's
I mean, and that's what I love about what we do, is that it's so varied. We get to touch lots of industries. You get to learn, because you're so ingrained in that client for the period that you're working with them, the little things that you learn along the way, and the things that stick in your head sometimes are like, where did I learn that? Or where did that come from?
And it makes you really good at acronyms. Really good with a new client to go, I'm really sorry, dumb question, but what does that acronym mean? Because I have no idea. Like, you can try and have a guess, and you're just like, oh, the medical ones blow my mind. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favorite part of everything you do? Like, as a conference manager, we're on top of everything from marketing to project planning to program structure to tools and tech to people experience. We're across everything. But if you had to choose one thing out of everything that you do, what would that one thing be?
The one thing for me is probably the on-site delivery. It's bringing it all together, seeing it all happen. I think that if you're not energized by seeing it all come together, because by then 99% of the work is done, right? You see it all come together and it come to life, a happy client. That is absolutely why I do what I do. I think that's when you see all of the detail, all of the hours, all of the planning, it all come together, and seeing that your clients are enjoying hosting, they're enjoying, showcasing their talent, seeing all of the program come together. That's what does it for me.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. There's a real buzz about that.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that one perfect event. Where.
There's such a thing as a perfect event.
I know. I'm like, it's this dream somewhere over there, but it's
a unicorn event.
Yeah, it is. It's a unicorn event. And the clients and the delegates, they go, oh, that was an amazing event. That was just perfect. And I'm like, if only you knew all of this under the water thing, that wasn't meant to happen like that, and that wasn't meant to happen like that, but no one knows any different, and they thought it was amazing. But it's like that one of the,
you probably have clients who think that it was a perfect event, and in your head you're like, what about this and this and this and this, and I guess that's also part of our role, right, to protect our clients from the things they don't need to know that we have going on in the background that we're dealing with, that, you know, and that's what makes us good at our jobs.
But I also think if you're always striving for that unicorn event, then you've always got something to learn. You've always got, because I don't know, every event that I do, you head on site and you're like, I've got this sorted. This is going to be like, and then on site, something happens that you hadn't thought through, and yet you thought through everything. So
yeah, and you know what? That's one of the things I think that make what we do really exciting, because that's one of the challenges. How nimble are you? How agile are you? How flexible are you? How solution focused are you? But also, we're working with humans. It's human nature. You know, we can't plan everything, even though we like to and we try to. But it's you always have a contingency. You always have a plan B. There's always a solution, and thinking on your feet. And so I think that's also part of the challenge and part of the reward of that live delivery. So yeah.
So the on-site experience is like nothing else, as far as I can't imagine doing any other job that gives that same level of satisfaction or elation, really, to some degree. Awesome. And where do you think you'll head next? Like, is this PCO world is this PCO world something that has grabbed your attention? Because if you haven't looked around already, all of us that have been in this PCO world, and we just had an approved PCO meeting just yesterday, and I was looking around the virtual Zoom room at all of us, and we've all been in the industry for, you know, coming close to 20 years for most of us. And we're still here after 6 months of being shut down and the carpet pulled out from under us. I was looking around the room and thinking, wow, we're still all here, and still evolving and growing and maneuvering this new environment, but we are still all here, and we're still evolving as this new environment throws more challenges at us that we probably haven't even had to encounter in the 20 years that we've been here. So has this captured you for life, do you think?
I definitely think that the opportunity is there, and that it's some. I mean, I love the PCO world, and all of the SINS approved PCOs. You know, I've worked with a lot of them in my venues days, and probably in a different manner as a PCO. And I admire so many of you because you have got a lot of experience, and the people around that table bring so much to the industry. I think it is a very challenging time for PCOs and for event managers and anyone arranging events in the current environment. So, you know, I'd like to say I'm in it for the long haul, but it's really hard to tell. It's so uncertain. You know, COVID is having such an impact which no one predicted. So I think that ability to be nimble and agile and respond accordingly will be really interesting to see how everyone navigates the next kind of, you know, 2-3 years. Because although, you know, everyone's working on a vaccine, we're currently at level 2. We might yo-yo for a bit, but what does that mean for the future of events? It means, you know, client confidence is probably down, but, you know, we've got a role to play to encourage people to keep meeting. Nothing will ever replace face-to-face. You know, a few years ago, there was the whole, everyone's going to go virtual, it's going to save money, people will stop meeting face-to-face, you won't need convention centres. But I think there will always be a need and a desire for that human contact. So, like, I mean, I love what I do, but it's just the environment is so uncertain. So, I'll roll with the punches.
And I think most of us are just rolling with the punches at the moment. It is, you know, it's like, what other choice do we have other than finding solutions, rolling with the punches, dealing with whatever comes up in front of us? some part of me thinks that as a PCO, we are positioned to take that on with much more confidence than, other industries or other professions, because that's how we roll with an event anyway. We turn up on the day, it's all planned, it then all changes because something out of our control happens, and then we put the ducks back in a row and we carry on again. So I think we're in this position, and we have a disposition that this isn't unusual to us. It's just affecting more people.
I agree.
On a
I think it's a
period.
scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely agree. It's the scale of the uncertainty and the scale of the change, which has affected us, which changes probably the way we work a little bit. It means that probably our contingency planning happens a lot earlier, and it has a few more details and a few more layers than, for example, something changing on the day. It's now constantly, something's postponing, something's cancelling, we're reinventing, we are looking at what something looks like at level 2, we're looking at what event might look like in a hybrid or a fully virtual environment, and what does that mean, and what ducks do we have to put in a row. So I agree. I think it's the scale. So it very much is a test of our human resilience. I'm sure that we've all been to more than one talk on resilience and what that means, but now we're going to put it in practice. So
nice. All right, just to wrap us up, what is one aha moment that you have had in your career?
In my career, I think it's hard for me to pinpoint one aha moment. I've had several, and I think I mentioned to you a question that you posed to me when I first joined this side of the world, and you said, what is your ideal client? And I kind of said, Sandra, what do you mean by that? And I think what's reinforced now that I've been in this role for a few years is probably something that I thought prior to anyway, and that's that I like working with people with similar values, whether that's clients, suppliers, partners, my own team. It's having that shared sense of purpose, that you're all, rowing the boat in the same direction, that you're on the same page on a project, that you have shared goals, and that everyone's kind of on the same page. And I think with the uncertainty of COVID, it's kind of reinforced that for me a little bit, in terms of so much uncertainty. Work-life balance puts it all back into perspective. And what's important in life. The old adage that life's too short, and it really is. So surround yourself with amazing people that you enjoy the work that you do, because if you do, then you won't work a day in your life. So all of those kind of quite classic stereotypical kind of quotes come to mind, but I think having shared values with the people you surround yourself with is very important.
I couldn't agree more. That having a client where you have similar values in how you are achieving the desired outcome makes for plain sailing, compared to someone, you might be achieving the same goal, but the values are different. So how you want to get there is different. And then every day is a challenge, is really hard.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
All right, Ray, thanks so much for joining me here today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. I am so glad that you're enjoying this PCO world. It's fun, it's challenging, but I think, your personality and disposition is perfectly placed to do an amazing job as a PCO. So I think you've made, I've been watching your transition from venue of the PCO world, and you've done some amazing things. So, My generalized statement was just that.
Thank you so much for having me, Sandra. I really have appreciated your support over the years, and I really do value the connections that I made both at venues and as a PCO, because the transition probably was quite odd for a lot of people. But I'm testament that it can happen, and I've enjoyed absolutely both sides.
Yeah,
So
nice.
thank you very much, and I look forward to catching up with you again in person really soon.
Oh, yeah, my treat this time.
Wonderful, sounds
All right.
good.
Yeah. Okay, Ray, we'll talk soon.
Okay, have a great weekend.
Okay, that wraps it up for another episode of Auaha Live. If you would like to come back and join us in 2 weeks' time, we'll be back here on this channel, 12:30 on a Friday afternoon, to have more conversations with the talented people that do amazing things for the business events industry here in Aotearoa. So Auaha Live is every fortnight, and just interviewing different people from the different sectors, whether they are business owners or employees, whether it's AV, catering, PCOs. It is all of the suppliers and all of the talented people that make up this industry that maybe goes under the radar, because sports events or concerts are talked about way more often than our business events. But business events make a huge impact for a professional sector. So join me back here on the 18th of September, where I will have another talented person to have a conversation with and share their journey on getting to and working in the events industry. All right, that's it from us today. Kia pai o koutou rā whakatā. Have an amazing weekend. Bye for now. Mā te wā.